I would like to advise all those present that notice of this regular meeting of the Municipal Council of the City of Bayonne for June 14, 2023 has been provided to the public in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act of the State of New Jersey. Notice of time and place of the meeting has been included in the annual notice of meetings, which was posted and filed with the city clerk and with the Jersey Journal and the Star Ledger. An additional notice of time and place was posted and filed with the city clerk and was forwarded to the Jersey Journal and the Star Ledger by fax and regular mail on June 8, 2023. The regular meeting of the Municipal Council is now in session. Ms. Medina, please call the roll.
Mr. Booker?
Here.
Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Perez?
Here.
Ms. Weimer?
Here.
Mr. La Palusa?
Here, please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Our first item is the hearing of the local municipal budget for the calendar year 2023, which was approved at the meeting held May 17, 2023, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board by summary as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered following a public hearing at this meeting of June 14, 2023, is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And Councilmember Perez gives the resolution giving the offering second reading by title. Ms. Weimer, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Weimer?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Second reading is by title. It is the calendar 2023 local municipal budget. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this budget an opportunity to be heard. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. No speakers. With no speakers, I'll have a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And a resolution adopting the budget.
Second.
And on adoption of the budget, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Okay, the next item was scheduled for hearing, but we're actually going to reintroduce an ordinance entitled An Ordinance of the City of Bayonne, amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances, Chapter 16, Rent Control.
This was, to remind the council and the general public, this was the ordinance that was prepared by outside counsel for the Rent Control Board. It wasn't in the form that we normally use, and so the law department has changed it around a bit so that it's more readable. And so we'll introduce this tonight to have the hearing at the following meeting.
And a resolution setting July 19th as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Who would like to move it?
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Okay,
Want me to make an announcement?
sure.
All right, with respect to 02 through 07, Law Department examined the meeting notice was prepared by the Law Department, found it was deficient for all of these. So for 02 to 07, we're going to renotice, and we'll have to have the public hearing at the July meeting.
On 02, who would like to move it to the July meeting?
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
03 is the resolution moving the public hearing to July 19th. Who'd like to move it?
Move
So moved. Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker. Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
04, who'd like to move that resolution?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
So 5 is moving it to the July 19th meeting.
So moved.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker. Mr. Carroll. Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
06, moving it to July.
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker. Mr. Carroll. Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And 07.
So moved.
And on that one, Mr. Booker. Mr. Carroll. Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Suzanne. Please state your name and your address.
Suzanne Ciano, 61 West 6th Street, Bayonne, New Jersey.
And you actually have 5 minutes to address the council.
Okay. Good evening. In February, we received a phone call from the Bayonne City Hall stating that they're doing a revamp of all the handicap parking spaces in Bayonne, and we needed to come in for an exam. So we made the appointment, and we were told to make sure we brought in all of his medications. That was very important. Well, we got there, we weren't asked for a doctor's note. An old one was used instead. So the next week, the signs were taken down from my husband's handicap poles, and we didn't hear anything why. We called. We went up to City Hall, and they gave us a number to call, so we called numerous times, and we never got a call back. A few weeks later, we did receive a letter in the mail stating that the medical provider stated that he's not eligible for his spot anymore. So we went, after we received the letter that saying he wasn't qualified, my husband has this space for 10 years, and every time he has gone up to City Hall for an examination by the doctors, they all told him he was permanently disabled. So we went, his prognosis has gotten more complex since last September, when I think that was the old doctor's note. His balance is very bad. He's just been diagnosed with severe arthritis of the neck and the back. I have stated, what could we do? So I called, I figured the first one I would call was Mr. Carroll. I did, I gave him told him what was going on. I sent him the numerous doctors' letters that I have stating all the problems that he has, and Mr. Carroll told me he would forward them to the departments that they need to go, which he did. I didn't hear anything. I contacted him again, and I asked him if there was any updates, and I didn't hear. So I said, next person I'm going to go to is my councilman at large, Mr. Perez, and I was on the phone with him, telling him what happened. I feel that, with all due respect to nurses, that all the doctors' documentations here overrule what the medical provider said. We would like to appeal this, and I don't know where to go from here. My husband he's retired from the New Jersey Turnpike. I'm retired from DEA, and I was always told that if you have a problem, you go through your chain of command, and that's what I think I did. I even called the mayor's office to see if I can get an appointment with him, but I was told that he doesn't get involved with this, which I understand.
Well,
So I'm asking, what do I do next?
so I'm going to let the Director of Municipal Services talk to you. The Health Department and the Public Safety issue of the handicap spot will be under her provision, so she's going to talk to you. This is Ms. Suzanne Kavanaugh.
Hi.
Hi,
How are you?
good.
I'm Suzanne Kavanaugh, Director of Municipal Services. So this department is under me, the Clinical Services, where we actually do the assessment. The process has been followed, And the criteria set up in the process, the assessment itself is devised from our city physician, Dr. John Deduces. So in that assessment, when you come in for the physical, are measurable outcomes. So these outcomes need to be met. There's a certain criteria. Nobody's denying that your husband may be handicapped, but to what capacity? So does he meet the level consistent with the need for a handicapped parking spot in front of your home? Where he may meet the need for a handicapped placard given by the state, he did not meet the need with our assessment for a spot in front of your home. Besides that fact, do you drive?
Yes, I've driven.
You have your license?
Yes.
That knocks you right off. Because there's another driver in the household who is able to drive, you could drop him off in front of the house, he could go into the house, and you can go and park the car. Or if he's driving, he can pull up in front of the home, you can come and drive, you can come and park the car for him. So that is one of the criteria that failed
Okay.
in that case.
He wasn't examined by a
If you
doctor.
want to, he was examined by a nurse who can
A
do a
nurse.
head-to-toe assessment that is devised by the doctor, and it has measurable outcomes. So he did not pass that physical. He did not meet the need consistent with the level that we would need him to meet for a handicap spot in front of your house. And the fact that you're a driver in the household, that negates it totally. You could still appeal it. You can
I'd
get
like to
other
know.
doctor's notes, but the fact that you're a driver in the household, that precludes you from even getting the spot, him getting the spot.
Well, then, okay, but he's had it for the last 10 years, and that nothing was ever said or explained anything like that before.
I became the director in October, so that is the criteria that needs to be met.
Okay, so now if I want to appeal this, how do I go about it? Who do I go to first?
You can get other doctor's notes, and
I
you
do.
would send the appeal into Director Kubert directly, but I'm telling you right now that you don't meet that criteria because you are a driver in the household and you can drive him.
You never heard of that before, but,
That is part of the
you know, I
criteria.
appreciate it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sophia? You're not going to speak? Okay. Okay, that's it. Moving on is an ordinance proposed for introduction. It's an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, New Jersey, adopting the redevelopment plan titled Redevelopment Plan Bayonne Energy Center 3 for the property identified as a portion of Block 419, Lot 1, as shown on the official tax map of the city pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law. And a resolution moved by Councilmember Perez fixing Wednesday, July 19th, in the Dorothy E. Harrington Council Chambers and as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Ms. Weimer, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
09 is an ordinance adopting the amendment to the 8th Street Station Rehabilitation Plan for 218-222 Broadway redevelopment for the property located at 218-222 Broadway, which is identified as Block 319, Lot 1, as shown on the official tax map. And a resolution moved by Councilmember Carroll fixing Wednesday, July 19th as time and place for a public hearing. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
On the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
10 is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 4, licensing, registration, and business regulations. And a resolution moved by Councilmember Booker fixing Wednesday, July 19th as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
On that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Oh, 11 is An ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, New Jersey, amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7, Traffic, and a resolution moved by Councilmember Perez, fixing Wednesday, July 19th as the time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Ms. Weimer, will you second?
Second.
On that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll is absent. Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
12 is an ordinance of the City of Bayonne amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances, Chapter 4, licensing regulation, registration, and business regulations, and a resolution fixing Wednesday, July 19th as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. It's moved by Councilmember Booker. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
On the resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
The consent resolution is moved by the council as a whole. It orders the following communications to be received and filed. It covers C1 through C3. Are there any questions on the communications? And on the communications, Mr. Booker. Mr. Carroll is not here again. Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
OR1 is from Donna L. Mauer, Chief Financial Officer, reporting on vendor payments and recommending payment of the same, and a resolution adopting the recommendation and ordering payment of the claims. It's moved by the council as a whole. Any questions on OR1? And on that one, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Consent resolution is a resolution moved by the council as a whole, ordering the following resolutions to be adopted. It covers CR1 through CR18. Any questions on the consent resolutions? And on those, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R1 has been withdrawn with the adoption of the budget. R2 is moved by Councilmember Perez, authorizing the Planning Board to conduct a preliminary investigation to determine whether the property located at 15-21 East 23rd Street, which is also identified as Block 198, Lots 1 and 2, as shown on the official tax map of the city, constitutes a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law. Mr. Booker, will you second?
Second.
On that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R3 is moved by Councilmember Perez also, authorizing the Planning Board to conduct a preliminary investigation to determine whether the property located at 33-37 East 18th Street, which is identified as Block 226, Lot 12, 13, and 14, as shown on the official tax map of the city, constitutes a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law. Mr. Booker, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R4 is moved by Councilmember Booker, authorizing the Planning Board to conduct a preliminary investigation to determine whether the property located at 626-628 Avenue E, which is identified as Block 405, Lot 31, as shown on the official tax map of the city, constitutes a non-condemnation area of need of redevelopment pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law. Ms. Weimer, will you second?
Second.
On that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R5 is moved by Councilmember Perez, designating Duke Realty Bayonne Urban Renewal LLC as redeveloper of Block 466, Lots 1 through 4, Block 465, Lot 9, and Block 478, Lots 1 and 1.01, and authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement. Mr. La Palusa, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
R6 is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Spatial Data Logic for continued technical support and maintenance of its department's data management software and continue enterprise licensing for the municipal management software for a period of 1 year commencing July 1 through June 30th, 2024, for a total amount of $61,600, and authorizing the municipal treasurer to issue a check in the amount to Spatial Data Logic. Would like to move it.
Move it.
Second.
On that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
I have a few add-ons. First one is amending resolution number 23-03-15-079 that authorized an agreement with the Bayonne Economic Opportunity Foundation for a Title III grant funds to administer a senior nutritional program to correct the account number from which the funds were to be charged. Would like to move it.
Second.
And on that one, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And 2 is authorizing the mayor and/or his designee to enter into an agreement with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey to provide a kiosk with salvage elements from the Bayonne Bridge for display at Dennis P. Collins Park at the sole expense of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.
This is a, kind of like a presentation, but it also has a piece of steel from the Bayonne Bridge, the old Bayonne Bridge. So it's a salvaged piece of steel, and they'll do a nice presentation somewhere in First Street Park, I believe, with the new bridge in the background, right? I believe so. And I'll second it. No, it's okay, I'll second it. Well, yeah, as a whole, it
You
doesn't
want to do
matter.
it as a whole?
Doesn't matter.
You can do it as a whole. And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
And
Do you have any more?
I have one more that's not on the agenda.
Do you have one?
It is authorizing the filing of an application for funding in the amount of $500,000 and execution of an agreement between the City of Bayonne and the New Jersey Department of Transportation for West Side walkway improvement projects along the Hackensack River, City of Bayonne, Hudson County, New Jersey.
Move it.
Second.
And on that one,
This was the money that we had thought was in the budget, and then it was removed from the budget by somebody at the state level, and then we came to learn on Monday from the Department of Transportation that the money is still in the budget and available to us. So we have to access it by the end of the month, though.
so, on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
$500,000 surprise.
Good surprise.
On that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Chair-
I have one other. This is from the Fire Department, from Public Safety. They were awarded a fiscal year 2021 Assistance for Firefighters grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $87,831.81 to purchase personal protective equipment and Class II fire service harnesses. We all know what they are. And there's a match of 10%, which is $8,783.19, bringing the total approved budget to $96,615. The $8,783.19 in non-federal local matching funds are certified as available in the appropriate account. So this resolution authorizes the Director of Public Safety to take any and all actions necessary to accept the federal funds and to acknowledge that the terms of the summary award memo, agreement articles, obligation document, and 2021 AFG Notice of Funding Opportunity, which they call a NOFO, are going to be incorporated into the terms, and that the mayor and clerk are authorized to execute any and all documents.
Can we do that as a whole, please?
Sure. And on that resolution, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye. Any more?
Any more,
I
Mr.
want to wish all the dads a happy Father's Day, happy Juneteenth, everybody, and a happy 4th of July before we meet again.
And with that, I take a motion to adjourn.
Motion, second?
And on the motion to adjourn, Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll. Mr. Perez. Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye. Good evening, everybody.